Now, top story at this hour comes from the war-torn West Asia, where the Israel-Hamas war continues unabated. Following repeated calls for ceasefire and restraint, Israeli forces are now believed to be thinning their operation in Gaza. But on the other hand, they seem to be increasing deployments in the north. Many believe the Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu could just be keeping the pot boiling. Let's take a look at the developments on the ground. This week, Israel said that it would pull out some troops from Northern Gaza while carrying on with more targeted strikes. And as a result, at least 70 people were killed and over 130 were wounded in the besieged Strip in the last 24 hours. According to Hamas-run Health Ministry, death toll has topped over 23,200, with over 1.9 million displaced in the Strip, with threat of famine and disease looming over the region. During the U.S. Secretary of State's visit, Israel agreed to a UN assessment in the north to understand what needs to be done for displaced Gazans to return safely. At the same time, Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, said that the daily toll on civilians in Gaza is far too high, while urging for more food, more water, more medicines for the people of Gaza. In southern Gaza, Israel continued its operations in Khan Yunis and the Maghazi area. It claimed to have hit 150 targets in the latest 24 hours. IDF claims that it has now found 15 tunnel shafts in the Al-Maghazi, as well as rocket launchers, missiles, drones, and other explosive charges. For the Gazans on the ground, there has been no respite. They say the northern zone is still off the limits, while the southern half has become a full-blown war zone in recent weeks. World Health Organization also remarked on Tuesday that there has been no let-up in the intensity of conflict over the past weeks. But on the Lebanon border, violence is flaring up. Israeli army released a video showing military strikes on various locations in Lebanon, including the Farkela and Yarun. Israeli Air Force claims attacks on Hezbollah infrastructure in southern Lebanon. Earlier on Tuesday, Hezbollah targeted a command base in northern Israel. This was in response to the death of one of its commander, Wissam Thawil, and also the deputy leader, Saleh al-Aruri, on January 22nd. Now, Hezbollah warned that Israel's wave of targeted killings cannot lead to a phase of retreat, but rather to a push forward for the resistance. While Israeli strike killed at least 4 in the South Lebanon on Tuesday. Ever since the war started, Israeli forces and Hezbollah have been engaged in skirmishes. The violence has forced tens of thousands of people to flee both sides of the border. Over 185 have been killed in Lebanon, including 140 Hezbollah fighters and over 20 civilians and 3 journalists. While in northern Israel, 9 soldiers and at least 4 civilians have been killed, with tensions running high. There seems to be no end for the conflict in sight. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by retired Colonel Rich Outsend from Washington, D.C. He is a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and the Jamestown Foundation. Welcome to the broadcast, sir.
Good to be with you.
Now, we are looking at 2 major developments here. First, Israel has agreed to allow a UN mission to evaluate the situation in northern Gaza. 2, Israel is pulling some troops from Gaza to add forces near the Lebanese border. Colonel, where do you see this war heading?
Well, I think we need to look at the 2 theaters of war, if you will, a little separately. In Gaza, the war against Hamas is going to continue if we look at the indicators on the ground and also the statements of Israeli leaders for another year. Now, it's not going to be at the same level, the same intensity. They've had multiple divisions, very large units in the Gaza Strip conducting operations sort of to break the backbone militarily of Hamas, which in the north of Gaza, they largely have done. They've reduced the ability of Hamas to rule over the Gaza Strip in the north and to operate at the level of brigades or battalions, although there's still some fighters there. So it's okay to pull some of these larger Israeli forces out, but still in the south, Hamas retains fighting capability. Fighting will continue there, and there will be some movements in the north as well. So I think this is turning it down from a 10 to a 5, so to speak, in Gaza, but that fight will continue for the foreseeable future. Now, in terms of the north, my sense is that it's a very dangerous situation. I think similar to what we've seen in Gaza, there are, in the north, on the Lebanese side of the border, there are tunnels,
Right.
there are military positions, there are Iranian advisors, and Israel's not just going to let what happened in Gaza happen in the north. There's 70,000 Israelis that have had to be evacuated from their homes, so it's a tense situation. I think the chances for this exploding into fighting in the north are quite high.
All right. Colonel, some are actually saying that the Israeli Prime Minister is deliberately trying to keep the pot boiling. Would you say the same?
Well, look, there's deep political divisions in Israel. That was true before the war. It is true now, and that will be resolved after the war. The resolution of those divisions has been postponed because the Israelis are united in concern about the security situation and in concern for the not just the dead and the families of the dead from the October 7th attacks, but also from the hostages. There's still a reported 140 hostages still held. That doesn't mean that Israel hasn't had its political reckoning. That will come. And that's led some people to say that Netanyahu has an incentive in prolonging it. I personally don't believe that. I think that everybody in the political environment and the military leadership structure just has come to realize they have a massive long-term threat in front of them that will take months and months, if not years, to disarm.
All right, Colonel Laudzin, thank you so much for joining us here on this broadcast and getting us all those insights.
Good to be with you. Thank you.